With the Calgary Flames season officially being over, there is no hesitation in saying that this season was absolutely insane. From a new head coach to a new general manager to all of the free agency uncertainty and all of the trade speculation, this season really did have it all. And we will review all of those topics and delve into why this season kind of ended up being perfect in terms of setting up the Flames for a very good future. Welcome to Flames Digest and welcome to the season review for the Flames. If you're new around here and you do love the team, make sure you subscribe because less than 20% of the people watching are subscribed. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around the Calgary Flames, then make sure you join the fastest growing community of Flames fans on the internet. We'd love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. And yes, this season is finally over. The Flames wrapped up the season with a big win against the San Jose Sharks. And honestly, a lot of people will say, well, how could this season be perfect? The Flames didn't make the playoffs and they didn't finish last either. So if you're not at either far end of either spectrum, then what's the point? It was another lost season. Well, sure, you can say that all you want, but there's so much to take in from this season that really does lead the Sea of Red to feeling very optimistic going into the future. Now, I'm not speaking for everyone, of course, and we'll go over all the sides, but let's start with where the Flames ended in the standings. So low standings equals high draft pick, and it's been a while since the Flames have had a top 10 draft pick, and there's a chance that, it could end up being actually a very, very high draft pick. Now, the Flames finished 9th bottom in the league. They were kind of in a three-way tie between 8th and 10th, all at 81 points. But the way the tiebreakers work, they were 9th. So what does this give the Flames? Well, they have a 5% chance of winning the draft lottery. That gives them a 5.2% chance of getting that second overall pick, a 0.2% chance of the third. Now, they're pretty much almost, I don't want to say guaranteed. I mean, it's only 64.4%, but 64.4% chance they will get that 9th overall pick, which is high. You can get a very quality player at the 9th pick. We've seen many 9th overall picks have very good careers in the past. There's a chance that they might drop a little bit in the lottery if a team below them does end up winning the lottery. So a 23.5% chance, that's pretty high, that they'll get the 10th pick, and a 1.7% chance they'll have the 11th. So no matter what, almost guaranteed a top 10 pick, and that's great. The Flames need a top 10 type of player to really, progress this rebuild. Now, the Flames obviously did acquire a lot of draft picks and prospects and young players that will help the Flames in the future, and that's absolutely great. The Flames, sure, they missed the playoffs. That really does suck. It's so nice watching your team play in the playoffs. The way the city gets, there's just a buzz. Like the vibe of the entire city is so amazing. 17th Ave, the Red Mile. It's been a little while since we've had that, a couple seasons now. The Red Lot. It would have been great. But this isn't the worst case scenario either. And it's not too bad. It's a shame that in the end, the Flames didn't end up falling even further in the standings. Now, that being said, I mean, you want to watch your team win, but in an ideal world, they really would have gotten a top 5 pick because it was a realistic thing not too long ago, and the Flames ended up winning a few of their last games and ended up coming 9th. That's how, that's how crazy it was going into the end of the season. So many teams near the same amount of points. But low standings equals high draft pick, and that's not a bad thing. So a top 10 pick isn't a bad thing to take out of this season. Now let's talk about how there are plenty of positives to go over, and I'm talking about at an individual level for a lot of these players. We've seen players break out, we've seen players have career years, and there's just so much good to talk about. Now, first, Dustin Wolf. Finally, the Flames kind of committed to a goalie prospect and gave him some good games in the end. So in his 15 starts, he finished with a 7-7-1 record. Not too bad at all. It's very good that he got that last win. It's a shame he couldn't get the shutout. But to get a 500 record is huge for a goalie. Now, the individual stats aren't amazing, but they certainly improved as his time at the NHL level went on. So an 893 save percentage isn't great. You want to be above 900 for sure, but I think with more time, he'll absolutely be able to do that. And a 315 goals against average, anything under 3 would definitely be something to shoot for Wolf. But great that we got to see the emergence of young Wolfie, and hopefully he gets more opportunities to play next season and through this rebuild, and maybe be the goalie of the future for the Flames when they are ready to be contenders once again with the new arena. It was so good to see Wolf at the NHL level. Now he has a chance to go win the Calder Cup with the Wranglers. Next, these three men right here. MacKenzie Weegar had an insane season offensively, putting up 20 goals. He was a stud back there on defense as well and became such a good leader for this team, the leader that they really do need. And the man to his left in that photo there, his left, our right, Nazem Kadri also had a very good season, showed his leadership skills, and so many players played a lot better once they played with Kadri. You can talk about Andrei Kuzmenko, Connor Zary, and of course, Martin Pospisil, the last man in the photo there on the right of the photo. His emergence kind of came out of nowhere. No one expected him to be a staple in the lineup, but once he came up, he never looked back. Now, obviously, he did miss a little bit of time with suspensions and a little bit of injuries as well, but it's great that the Flames have that kind of that chippy player, an aggressive type player, someone who can get under the opponent's skin and maybe even draw some penalties in Pospisil, because they haven't had that really since Tkachuk got traded to Florida. So to see the emergence of not only Dustin Wolf, but also Martin Pospisil out of nowhere is so good, and definitely a positive to take from this season. Now, a lot of us Flames fans, we talk about how Pospisil, he does need to tone it down a little bit, maybe get slightly more within that rule book to avoid the suspensions and just for the overall health of himself and his opponents. But it's so good to have a player like him in the system, and I'm sure he will be a staple on the roster moving forward as well. Now, another couple of dudes I'd like to talk about are these two right here. First, Blake Coleman, 30 goals on the year. No one really saw that coming. You know, he's been on the Flames for a few seasons now since he won the Cup with Tampa Bay. And, you know, he's been all right, but this season he was so good. 30 goals. He pretty much was always on the line with Backlund and Mangiapane. So the vet line getting it done. And Coleman, so good to see him really break out and score like crazy. He could be a very elite goal scorer in this league. He gets into the right spaces. And then that man to his left, our right in the photo, Connor Zary. Wow, the emergence that the Flames needed from one of their rookies. Now, the Flames had quite a few rookies, including Wolf, that had a chance to play at the NHL level this season. And I don't think really everyone expected Zary to be the number one rookie that really took off, because you look at guys like Matt Coronato, who everyone thought would kind of have an 82-game season type of thing, or even Jacob Pelche once he was healthy again. Was it time for his breakout? Coronato, Peltz, they didn't necessarily pan out, which isn't a great thing, and that's not, you know, the best news ever, but at least Zary was able to, and now he's being labeled as the potential number one center of the future for this team, so it was so good to see him break out. There were guys who didn't have the best seasons, Rasmus Andersson, Andre Mangiapane, and then it was too bad that Jonathan Huberdeau really couldn't get it going fully to what Flames fans expected when he was acquired by the franchise, and obviously what his contract dictates. That being said, his second half of the season was a lot better than his first. Ever since the new year hit, he was better, but still not the best season. And I mean, that's just such that trade. Weegar really is the main piece of that trade back. Huberdeau, another not so great season. Hopefully he can really get back into form next season if he's playing with someone who he gels with and who can really just finish off all of his insane passes, because he's so skilled. He just still hasn't quite been able to put it together in Calgary, but things are looking up for him as he did play better. Now, let's get into the real juicy stuff, reviewing Craig Conroy. So, when he came in, you know, he kind of made this promise of getting as much back as he can for the pending free agents and committing to, you know, the future and some of the young guys. So let's take a look at this article. When Craig Conroy was hired as the Flames' general manager back on May 23rd, 2023, so almost a year away, about 11 months, he spoke candidly about the challenges facing the organization and how he intended to tackle them. In his introductory press conference, he acknowledged that having 7 key players potentially become UFAs in the summer of 2024 was untenable, and that decisions would have to be made both by the players and the team and how to move forward. let's continue. And with that, the stage was set for nearly 10 months of rumor and speculation surrounding the team. Conroy was as clear as a GM is ever going to be about his approach. He wanted to get guys re-signed, but if they weren't signed by the trade deadline, they would be moved. And we saw them move. Not a single one of them really re-signed when it comes down to it. I mean, Michael Backlund did. He got the captaincy. But for the most part, the Flames made a lot of trades. And look, a new coach, I like Huska. I think he's really, really good. I'm glad the Flames will hopefully continue under his wing, because with what he was given, I thought he did a great job. And in the end, he made some lines that really did develop some chemistry. Craig Conroy, that is more of a debate. A lot of people don't like what he's done and don't like what he will continue to do. But he really has committed to his plan and wants to build for the future and not just continue what, Tree Living did of mediocrity every season, build so that we can, make a push for the playoffs this season. But what does that mean for our future kind of thing? So I compiled all of what has happened in the Craig Conroy era pretty much. So what has gone out? Hanifin, Lindholm, Tanev, Toffoli, and Zadorov were all traded, and they were all pending UFAs. Adam Ruzicka was dropped to waivers and picked up, and then he started getting into some substances. And then Dylan Dubé obviously has legal proceedings going on, so he also is an out. Now, for all of those, and just with waiver pickups and college signings and such, what has Conroy picked up? Well, this was all I could remember. I'll do a video, I think it'll come out tomorrow, more so about some of those conditional picks and what they mean for the playoffs this year. Kind of a Flames fans guide to the playoffs. But anyway, here's what came in this season. Sharangovich, absolute stud. Andrei Kuzmenko, absolute stud. Daniil Miramanov, a staple on that defense there towards the end. Nikita Okochuk, Braden Pahal played pretty much every single game since he was picked up from waivers. Joel Hanley, a good veteran to have back there. Hunter Brustevich, such a good prospect. Artem Grushnikov, it'll be interesting to see how he pans out. Yoni Yermo, Adar Sunyev, Walteri Ignacio, Sam Morton, very interesting to see how his development goes. The Flames also retained 50% on the Hanifin contract, just his remaining contract, not his next one, obviously. And then all these picks, a first-round pick, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a third-round pick, a conditional third, a conditional third, a conditional fourth, and a fifth-round pick. Wow, that's a lot of picks, and I'm glad I got that little tune going there. But holy, so much was brought in and not a whole lot went out. Now, I know a lot of people will say those trades were terrible. The Hanifin trade, the Tanev trade, we got nothing back. Not every single trade is going to be A+ for one side and an F for the other. Now, you could argue that the Lindholm trade was an absolute home run by the Flames, and it certainly is looking so. It'll be interesting to see what Lindholm does in the playoffs. But that trade, absolute, swing and a hit. Some people will say the Hanifin trade, swing and a miss. Well, Conroy was in a bit of a bind with where he could send Hanifin kind of thing, because everyone knew where Hanifin wanted to go. And you know what? He got some good stuff back. The Tanev trade was pretty even. The Toffoli trade, my goodness, getting Sharangovich ended up being an absolute home run as well. And then the Zadorov trade is somewhat irrelevant. It's not like he was going to make all that much of a difference for the Flames' future anyway. So I'm here to say that I fully support Craig Conroy and I'm optimistic of his ploy going forward. That being said, I completely understand if you want, the Flames to acquire McDavid and Makar and Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox and Austin Matthews and whatnot. It's an ideal world, but realistically, I think Conroy has done a good job and I'm optimistic going into the future with all of the draft picks, prospects, and good players that have been picked up. I'm glad we have a GM who really is committing to the future, and it's just great to see. And overall, this season kind of ended up being perfect in the way that, look, the expectations were never really going to be that the Flames would win a cup this year, with all the changes happening. So with all this commitment to the future and the good young players that the Flames have acquired and will acquire, I'm ready to say that this season was an absolute success and ended up being perfect in the end with a top 10 pick on the horizon. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you like what you saw here today and have a wonderful rest of your day.